Now we're recording. Thank you very much. Thought you were going to do that. Okay. All right, moving right along. Pictures are important because we're going to talk today about steganography. Steganography is not in the textbook. I don't know why. I think it's sort of important. And it's kind of fun and interesting concept. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that. Okay. We talked about encryption, which is the way to scramble up data so somebody without the key cannot read it. Steganography is hiding the information, hiding it in some way so that others won't find it easily. It is sort of a form of security through obscurity, which is not an effective means of doing it. Basically, since 1883, we've had this policy that you should not be able to read an encrypted message, even if you know exactly how it was created, unless you have the key. And unless you have the key, you shouldn't be able to read the message. And that's been around, famous people like Claude Shannon and this guy in 1883 said that. Steganography kind of violates that rule, and that it says, well, we're going to try to hide this. And if you knew how I hid it, you could probably find it, but I'm hoping that you won't think to look. Steganography has been around since a long time. It's interesting, back 1499, this guy wrote a book on steganography. Interesting that it wasn't published for like 107 years later, although this, of course, Gutenberg did his printing press back in 1440s, I think. Somebody who knows better can correct me. So it was a long time before it got printed. And then the Index Laborium Formidable is the list of books for which good Catholics are not supposed to read. The Catholic Church had significantly more control over the country, over Europe back in 1609 than they do now. It was interesting that it was written as a book on magic, but it was really a book about cryptography if you knew the key. Yes? No. If I did, what would I see?
You would see that there was like this girl who went missing, and when she turned up, she had a bunch of tattoos on her body, and they were trying to figure it out.
What does it all mean? Yes.
They were hidden messages in the tattoos.
Well, people have been hiding messages at tattoos. A famous method way back, millennia ago, was to get your favorite courier who's going to run from here to there, shave his head, tattoo the message on his head. By the time he got to where he was going, his hair would have grown back. But the receiver would have known the trick and have shaved his head and read the message. Interesting to note, the courier himself did not know what the message was because he can't read the top of his head. And mirrors were few and far between millennia ago. So another, I like the one where you take a bunch of yarn, you put the message in Morse code on it, ink it in carefully, and then use that yarn to knit him a sweater or something. Have the courier wear the sweater, give it to as a gift to the person who received it, who would then unravel the sweater and read the Morse code on it. There are all sorts of ways, secret, hidden, hidden inks and stuff like that. Putting the message under a stamp. Okay, and then there was all sorts of ways about how you might write the message, and then you decrypt, look at that and figure it out. Okay. You can use both steganography, which is a hiding message, and encryption together. You can encrypt the message and then hide the encrypted message. So not only can people not read it if they don't have the key, they won't even know it's there. Several ways to do simple steganography. If you text, say, HTML, there's a lot of HTML tags that don't necessarily show in the displayed text. And so you can put things in the HTML tags. So somebody looks at, displays the HTML message, they don't see it. But if they look in the text, they can see the message. That's pretty simple, but it'll get by most people. Also, there are non-printing, invisible characters in Unicode. And there are a couple of them. You could use that to put binary messages into, hide them in a message that nobody will see unless they look deep at the actual characters, which of course aren't displayed. And again, the whole idea is to hide it. PNG is a graphical message format that hides information in chunks, puts information in chunks. They have a header, a length, the data, a CRC cyclic redundancy check, that like a checksum at the end to make sure the message is correct. And to be upward compatible, if they find a chunk with a label that isn't already defined, they just ignore it. That way, in the future, you can put new chunks in there with new labels. Well, I tried this out. I created a new chunk, the KenW chunk, put it out there, and sure enough, the file just displays as it always did, but my information is in the chunk. So you don't see it unless you look in the binary of the file. And then the classic way of hiding information in a graphical image is to hide it in the least significant bits of the image. Because if you have a 24-bit image or 3 times 8-bit image, if you look at change the last couple of bits, doesn't change the image a lot. And here's an example I stole from Wikipedia, where you have the picture of the trees. Okay, trees, big deal. If you remove everything but the last 2 bits, increase the brightness, and you get the picture of the cat. So the cat is also in that picture. So if you look at this picture, let's see if we can do this right. Oops, get my pointer and go back. Yes, in this picture here, you do not see the cat, and yet the cat is in that picture. Now, there are multiple ways of doing graphics. There's vector and raster. Vector is where you draw a line. Not an awful lot of systems do that, where there's SVG graphics, which defines picture as a series of lines and shapes. And that allows the system to do that. I remember long ago using drafting systems that actually used vector graphics. They drew the graphics on the CRT screen. They didn't have pixels as most systems. The screens we have today, all your laptops, all your desktops, the screen here is based on pixels, where each system, or each little dot picture element on the screen has got a color. And again, we have lots of pixels. Almost everybody's using pixel systems. Resolution, our screen usually has like 90 pixels per inch. That's what the humans can see. Printers go even finer. Printers can go down like 600 pixels per inch. And of course, the number of pixels they have depends on the screen resolution and stuff like that. Now, a picture represents a pixel represents what's supposed to be drawn for that one little dot of the image. Typically, screens like 920 by 1000 something, or 1920 by 1020. A lot of pixels, a million pixels on your screen. And each pixel has a color. Now, if it's a monochrome, you have a black and white image. The colors are black or white. If it's colored, then there's usually your red, RGB, red, green, blue colors. I remember from elementary school, if you mix these up, you can get all the colors you want. Yes, sir.
So monochrome pictures. So if this only have 2 colors within the picture, wouldn't that be like the 3D for like the red and blue in the movie scene? That's what I'm thinking of. That's monochrome picture.
Yeah, it can be red and blue, black and white, anything that doesn't have more than 2 colors. Black and red. Yes.
Okay.
You can compress it a lot more because there are not many varieties. It does have grays, and that's an issue. Yes, the pixels could be black or white, or could be a series of grays. And typically, though, for a color picture, you'll have red, RGB, red, green, blue, and there's like 1 byte or a number from 0 to 255 with how much of that color. And then there may be another byte for intensity, how dark or light this is. So you can do black and white with just 1 pixel, 1 bit per pixel. Full color could take 24 or 32, depending on whether you add the intensity. And there are simple graphics. If you're just doing your basic colors on a generated image, you can use, if you're having a chart or something, you might only use 4 or 8 bits per pixel. 4 bits per pixel, you have 16 different colors. And unless you have the deluxe Crayola box, that will do you for most pictures. Simple pictures. There's lots of formats. You've probably seen all these as file extensions in your file. Go over some of them right now. BMP is your simplest. BMP has each pixel is represented by an index into a color table. They typically have it, well, okay, for the simple things, they have a color table, and each pixel is represented by a index in that table. So if the table is only 16 colors, it only takes 4 bits for each pixel, so it's 4 bits per pixel. If you have a wide variety of colors, they don't have a color table, they just have maybe 32 bits for each pixel. Doesn't matter how complex the file is, because it doesn't do any compression at all, which means BMP files are usually very large, but they have no loss. Everything is exactly as the image was created. PNG is somewhat similar to BMPs. It stores all the pixels, but it uses different file format, and it compresses the files in the lossless. It uses deflate compression, which is a typical text compression system. Turned out, why do we have PNG? Because another system used a patented compression algorithm, and everybody was using GIF until Unisys said, "Oh, we own that. You can't do it without paying us." And everybody got grumble, and they made a new format and didn't pay them. So there. So people use PNG because it has compression. It's like sort of like BMP, but they've compressed it. So PNG files have no loss or distortion to them, and they're smaller than BMPs. Then there's JPEGs. JPEGs work really well for images, for things you might photograph, for pictures of people and objects in the real world. It's made by the Joint Photographic Experts Group, and it is a compression algorithm. It takes the image and compresses it. It's a lossy compression. There's a quality parameter that you can specify how much compression do you want, because there's a trade-off between image quality and compression. The better the image quality, the less the compression. The more compression, the worse the image gets to be. And they look very carefully at how the human eye works, how carefully people see color, how they see darkness. They spend more bits on the darkness than the color, because the human eye is more tuned to darkness than color. That's why if you watch an old movie on TV, or the movie's black and white, it looks okay. We can handle that because our eyes interpret the black and white much more than we interpret color. If it's dark at night in the moon, you see black and white, you don't see color. Okay, I have a series of images I stole from Wikipedia, I believe, but here's a picture. It's going to be hard to see from there, but that's a picture at 100% quality. The file was 81.3 kilobytes. Now, the BMP file, the same thing, was 219 kilobytes. So the JPEG right away at 100% quality is 37% of the BMP. Now here it goes to 50% quality. And my old eyes cannot see a difference between those pictures. You'll notice though, that from being it jumps from 81.3 kilobytes down to 14.7 kilobytes. Now we can jump to 25% quality, and it's only 9 kilobytes, which is like 11.5% of the 100% value. And there is, if you look really carefully, there's a small, if you look at the front of this graph, there's a small, you can see a small change there. And if you look really carefully, which is probably hard for you to see, particularly in the back row, that the leaves or the grass is a little bit less clear. Then you can go down to 10%, and now it's starting to get a little fuzzy around the corners. And then if you go down to quality of 1, yeah, it's really miserable. But you'll notice that the file is only 1.48 kilobytes, 0.67% of the BMP. They've done a lot of compression on this thing. You can still see it. And the 10 shows artifacts of compression, but it's really small. Okay, so that's PNG. Now, one of the things you might notice about JPEG is if you JPEG something with abrupt lines in black and white, particularly text. It might be hard to see on the screen. Oh, yeah. Well, but yes, but there's dots. There are dots on the, yeah, but if you ever look at one, blow it up, you see dots around the words. That's because the algorithm that does the compression doesn't handle abrupt changes because abrupt changes don't usually happen in nature too often. And so it these dots, which can be used by steganography. Okay, so what do you use these for? Well, BMP files capture a picture with no distortion, but they're big. PNG does pretty well, but they're smaller. It does really well for diagrams, and JPEG works very well for photographs. Now, if you're going to hide things, you want to hide them in the least significant bits. Yes, what? Yes.
When you compress, let's say you use 1% compression.
Oh.
Your JPEG, can you go in reverse? Like,
Oh, once you go compress the file, you cannot go back to 100. Now, you can always go down. If you have a file at 100%, you can do the quality down to 50. Yeah, no problem. But you can't go back up because you've lost that information. That information has been discarded from the file and is no longer available.
can you go back when you're using PNG?
PNG doesn't do any loss. So it uses compression, but it uses basically text-based kind of compression. The same sort of compression like WinZip and these sort of things use. It just takes the file, which has lots, particularly if you have lots of similar bytes, this pixel and that pixel and that pixel, all the same color, then yeah, they compress very well. Okay. Okay. Now, if you take the least significant bit of the say just one color. I picked on blue in one of my examples. I took the least significant bit of the blue color, and I got blue, green, red, and changed that one, and only that bit. And I hide a text message in it. So here's an example. Here's an example. You have dinosaur on the left is the original image, and the one on the right has I've changed the blue bit. That has the syllabus, this class, in that picture. And you can't hardly tell. Here, I've used 8 bits. I used 3 blue, 3 in the red, and 2 in the green, I think. So 8 bits, a whole byte was stored in the lower significant bits. Stored in the picture. Oh, what kind of dinosaur? A Stegosaurus, of course. I did that one myself. Okay, and I generated these images myself. Yeah. Now, okay. In this picture, if you look really carefully, I apologize, I didn't put the slides out online. That was my fault. I had the slides done hours ago, but I sometimes think maybe I'll change them. Don't want to put them out there yet. And there is, if you look, well, yes, if you look at the slides, which will be out online shortly, look carefully. Yes, there seems to be boxes, pixels in the hidden image. It seems to be surrounded because some of the bits. Okay, so now we have a question for you to think about. And I did, in the last minute, manage to put this online. So let's, okay. If you have your card for clicking, yeah. Let's, where'd it go? Okay, think about this. Excuse me? Oh, least significant bit. Yes, LSB is least significant bit, or least significant byte. In this case, I mean least significant bit. The one on the right, if you're, okay. And people online are clicking away. That's good. And we'll try it here. Oh, he's got to turn. I got to see the side of the thing with the picture. Yeah, you got to show that. That's the side you got to show me. Okay. All right, everybody. We got it. All right, it's working. Okay. Let's see. The online people think GIF is a bad choice, and the that's in the poll. We have 17 people online, and GIF. Okay, obviously GIF doesn't work too well because it's compressed. But GIF does not. I didn't go over GIF very carefully. GIF does not lose any information is lossless compression. JPEG has if you put it in there, change the JPEG quality, you're going to lose the lower bits, and you're going to lose the steganography information. You want something that doesn't have lossy compression. So PNG is probably the best, BMP, but the worst one would be JPEG, because you can lose information. Okay, trick question. Let's show those. All right, moving on. Now, steganography does have some legitimate purposes. Because Big Brother is always watching, they sometimes want to know who printed. If you're going to print a ransom message and send it off to somebody, well, some of these people color printers. What you don't see is that little tiny little yellow dots at the bottom of someplace on the image is the serial number of and time and date of that printer. And so the FBI looks at it, gets out their magnifying glass, looks at the dots, says, oh, this is the serial number, looks at their serial number, find out what manufacturer, traces it back, find out where Amazon sold that or who, and they're knocking your door in a few hours. Oh, money, dollar bills, all sorts of things to prevent you from copying them. And many scanners have software to detect the image of a dollar bill. It says, no, we're not going to do that. You can't copy that. Yes. So if you do copy images, you're supposed to put slashes through it or something. Yeah, they don't want you to, but obviously the Treasury does not want you to Xerox the dollars and try to pass them off. Yes. Now, watermarking is images you might put in there. Typically, they show up in the background sometimes. This is like confidential or draft is very common. And you'll see this, you get a document, Microsoft Word does this. There's a button for watermarks, and you can say what you want to see in the background. And it's usually like big letters diagonally across it. And it's faded, so you put it back there so people can see, oh, this is a draft, whatever you want to do. Now, there are some watermarking systems that are pretty robust, that they're hard to get rid of. Microsoft Word, of course, you just press the button, it goes away. But when it's printed, you can say, oh, yes, you can see it says draft there. We talked about chafing and winnowing, where that's a system where you send the image, you don't encrypt anything. Instead, you have a message or many messages that go across with one bit or byte or whatever chunk of information, and a MAC. This is authentication code that's encrypt that you do encrypt, and then you send it across, and the other side receives it. If the MAC is correct, then they take the bit. If it's not, they discard the message. And that, in some sense, is stenography, sort of encryption stenography. Okay. Oh, I taught classes like this previously. We did this exercise, which we're not going to do because we're running out of time, because I wasn't prepared. It was like, should have been, since I had all this stuff ready hours ago. But take a look at that. Think about that. Fred the Terrorist is a Doonesbury character. Been around for 50 years or so. Tell you what, think about it. Maybe you'll see it on Wednesday. Okay. All right. Now, how do you fight this steganography? What if your terrorist group is putting images in the picture? How do you know? Well, the least significant bits of an image will probably vary at approximately the same amount as the more significant bits, maybe proportionally by powers of 2. If they don't, then something. Now remember, of course, if you're embedding a message into an image, and your message has ones and zeros, and the colors were ones and zeros, only about 50% of the time you don't change the bit, because 50% of the time, if you want it to be a 1, it was already a 1, or you want it to be 0, it was already a 0. Only 50% of the time you have to change the bit. So it makes a difference, but not always. It's kind of hard to find. So, yes.
Are you able to hash anything?
Yes, many of these files have hash. Yes, many of these files have cyclic redundancy checks, which is a hash, simpler than a security hash, but it's there to detect if a change has been made. But I did this, and I wrote a program that calculated this. Actually, there's a function in Java that calculates that type of CRC, and so I changed the CRC, put it in there, and it didn't know I did it. But yes, if you don't do that, it will. Again, compression. If you have lossy compression, you may lose some information, and you might not be able to do that. It's interesting, if you go out on Wikipedia, look up steganography tools, you'll find a lengthy list of tools to help you do steganography and also to help you detect it. So it's around there. Get another image. I put the syllabus in there using one of the tools I got. Yeah, I can't tell. Okay, there's an interesting method for removing any possibility of steganography. Well, almost any possibility. It's easy to imagine a system where you have, so you have this image. Well, is there anything hidden in there? So you take a screenshot of the image, which is the picture, and then you do image to text recognition. There's many systems available to look at this, convert the picture to text, and now you have text that was the same as the original text, but it's been transformed in ways that you're going to drop any hidden information that's in there, and that will help remove steganographic information. Okay, any questions about steganography? If not, then we then we will move on to a review for the exam on, yeah. Does it work? Yes. Oh, oops. Okay. I had this quite, I really like that quote, so let's leave it there. Yeah, okay. All right. First exam is Wednesday. Wednesday, it'll be available all day because I know particularly some of you online cannot do it like 4:30 to 5:45. That's okay. My goal, and I think I should be able to make that because I have most of the exam already written, is to put it out there on Blackboard so it will magically appear Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. So all you early risers can take a look at it, shudder in fear, and spend the next 18 hours working on the exam. Whatever. It is a one-shot exam, and that once you open it up, you must answer all the questions before you say submit. Okay. A couple other topics we haven't covered. Padding, this covers encryption. Most of the algorithms take blocks of input. RSA takes rather large blocks. AES takes blocks of 128 bits, regardless of the size of the key, but it takes a block and converts it to ciphertext of that size. Well, what if your text, your plain text, isn't an even multiple of, what is that, 8 bytes? Well, no, actually that's 16 bytes. We have to put something on the end to pad it out. And so there are several ways to pad that out. Now, it's not a problem if somewhere in what you're encrypting, the plain text says how long this plain text is, but often it doesn't. It is as long as the plain text was this length. And so you have to make it that length at the end. So the decryption system has to look at the end and figure out, were any bytes added to this? And so there are multiple algorithms out there you can look at. I didn't go over the details of any of the particular algorithms, but many of them add 0 bytes or a byte that has the number of bytes that have been added at the end. So if the message requires 16 bytes and per block, and you've only got 12, so you have 4 left over, they add 4 bytes at the end, each of which contains the value 4, particularly the last byte. It is, in many of the systems, the last byte of the ciphertext tells you how many bytes of padding they have added. And if by chance the plain text was an even multiple of the block size, then they always add another block and just all padding. So always the last byte of the last block tells you how much padding was added. Now the padding can be, it can help you or hinder them in traffic analysis. Sometimes, even if you have a good encryption system, if you know that the people are sending messages back and forth, suddenly there's a big flurry of messages going back and forth between your opponents, you might go, oh, they're planning something, I better be ready. So, that's something that encryption doesn't help. Sometimes also knowing the length of the message. If they're sending, if you know that they often send short messages for yes and longer messages for no, then you might be able to tell something about the message size. Padding out to a predetermined length, not just a simple block, but say you pad out to some power of 2. So your messages are always some multiple, say, of 1,000 bytes, 1,024 bytes. Well, then if they have messages that they change just by a little bit, by a couple hundred bytes, it'll still pad out to the same size, so people analyzing the traffic won't be able to tell how big the packets were. Okay, that's it for padding. We want to go on to another topic of keys for encryption. Now, generally, a key that you have either as part of a certificate, in which case it is a big, long, random key, or it started off somewhere as input that some user typed in. ABC 123 or whatever they typed in for the password. Well, typically, what a user types in is long enough. The keys are 16, 24, or 32 bytes for AES, longer for much longer for RSA. And so, what they typed in does not work so well as a key. Also, the keys that you type are based on the keys on the keyboard, which there's only 92, I think there's 90 some keys on your standard keyboard, upper and lower case, control and all those things. Whereas there's 256 different values you can put in a byte. So you've lost a lot of randomness. And also if you're using Unicode for regular characters, the upper byte is 0. So every other byte is 0. So you're not going to get a really good key. So not a problem. You can transform a key, transform a user's input into a very effective key by hashing it using one of the regular hash algorithms like SHA-1. You take the input text, you hash that, and then you use the hash result as the key. Or if you want to be really secure, you repeatedly hash it over and over. You take the hash result, you hash that again, you take that and you hash it again, and you do that a couple dozen times. And by now you've got something really scrambled up, but still generated deterministically from the user's input, but it doesn't look like it anymore. And that can be used effectively as a key. I got a Java program that I wrote, and I'll go over real quickly, that does encryption on it, just to show you what the coding looks like in Java. I recognize that not all of you are programmers, but this is just an example of some of the code involved. Now, there is an initialization vector because I use Cipher block chaining. You remember, well, hopefully you remember Cipher block chaining because it just might be on the exam in 2 days. If you don't remember it, I suggest you take a look. So we need an initialization vector. So it randomly makes one and it stores it in the first 16 bytes of the file. So when it reads it, when it goes to read and decrypt the file, it reads the first 16 bytes and uses that as initialization vector. When it goes to write the file, creates an initialization vector, writes that out to the file before encrypting anything. And it uses a new random number every time it does it. And so the initialization vector is not encrypted, but the rest of the file is. The encryption key is entered by the user. Note, by the way, if you're programming, particularly in Java, that while you might think you'd read the key in as a string in Java, you don't. You read it in as a bunch of characters because you may want to erase the string after you read it in. Strings, if you remember in Java, are immutable. You cannot change them. Once you create a string, it is there forever. Someday it may garbage collect that text, but it's there out in your. Okay, so this thing is a program here, just real quickly, you don't have to look at all. Again, I apologize for not having the notes out there. I'll put them out there soon. Old man just forgot.
Dr. Williams,
Yes,
should there be something showing on the screen for online?
yes, you seeing anything?
We see your camera.
Oh, you don't want to look at me for heaven's sakes. Good. I apologize. Okay, let's see if we can. Boy, and when I do this, I can't see your chats warning me that I haven't done this. So yes, okay, I apologize. Now, hopefully you can see the screen. Yes, boy, you got to keep up with this old man. He's gonna fall. Everything's gonna fall apart if you don't want. All right, so yes, we've got a function right here at the beginning. This is just a function to make a key. Following, as I said, it's going to expand the key. User passes it what the user entered as an array of characters. We make initialization vector. Initialization vectors are often called a salt. I'm not sure why, but they're often called salt in the text. So we make a salt using the page. And then we create a BPE key spec. That is an algorithm for generating keys. We pass it the input text, the salt. How many times do you want to spin around doing that? How many times do you want to repeat this? I just picked 131, a random sort of number. And this is the size, 16 bytes times 8 bytes. And then once we have that, we go along and we create the code. Eventually, we have the code that creates it. Yeah. So how it works is important. Okay. And again, we want to read it. We've got the initialization vector in the first 16 bytes. So we read that into initialization vector. And again, we tell it we want to do AES encryption. We've got the key that we made from that algorithm just before, past that. Tell it we want to make an instance of the decryptor, give it the initialization vector, and away it goes. Now we've got something called a Cipher input stream. If you're familiar with Java, there's a input file stream. It works just like that. You just read it, and what you read, although it's ciphertext coming in, as you read it, it looks like just regular text. So you can just, all your input stuff works as it normally does, except it's deciphering along the way. Okay, so here's an important poll question we have for you, and I'm pretty sure let's get that question here. Yes. So think about this for a minute, half a minute. Okay. We've got a tie going on in line. Oh, now, okay. Things are moving quickly in the other direction. All right. Everybody got to hold it up with the proper orientation. You're turning it. There you go. All right. Good deal. Okay. Yes. Most people pick B, which is the correct answer. Very good. B, compress, then encrypt. Why? Because when you compress something, it takes the redundancy in the information and compresses it down to something that looks pretty much like a bunch of random bits. If you encrypt something, it comes out as random bits with almost no redundancy. Redundancy being if you text a message from your phone, my phone gives me hints, words I might suggest I might want to do next, and it's pretty accurate. I send a lot of the same messages, I guess, not very original. But if you think about it, if you had an encryption scheme that said send 1 for the first suggestion, 2 for the second suggestion, 3 for the third suggestion, and so forth, without sending a very lot of characters, you could probably send messages that's just telling you what suggestions it is. Because there's lots of redundancy in English. Well, that will all be gone after you encrypt it. So if you encrypt it, then it will hardly compress at all. If you compress it, then you encrypt it. That works just fine. And for those who say you can't do both, you're gonna have to study hard for the test. Let me get this. Oh, come on. Mouse is stuck again. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, end the poll, share the results. Okay, see it all, stop doing that, and we're done with this. And we move right on. Okay. Okay. More all right, more review the next half hour. Okay, we've talked a lot about encryption. Encryption does a lot of things for this. Confidentiality, you can hide information, integrity, you can digital signatures and message authentication codes do integrity. Doesn't do much for availability. Authentication, of course, authorization, anonymity, all of these are impacted by encryption. Encryption is used in doing these effectively. Here's the textbook information. This is the chapters, the textbook, sections of the textbook that are covered in the exam. This has been out in a message on announcement on Blackboard for a couple of days now, put out there last week. But yes, that. So if you haven't looked at those parts of the textbook, again, the textbook's online too, you can take a look at it. Here are the exam topics. These are what we covered. By the way, when I make an exam, when I go to write an exam, I go to this page, copy the list, put it in Microsoft Word, and then make sure I write a question for each one of the topics that I told you would be on there. So it will be on there. So yes, almost all of these are on there. And just for those classroom lawyers, yeah, anything else I haven't mentioned in class could be on, but I try not, is my goal not to surprise you on the exam. Yes, okay, everybody's taking a picture. Yes, I apologize again. I will get the slides out. Really sorry I missed that. They were done hours ago. I should have put them online. Okay, and you can see all these topics, and you should know all these things. Real quick review of methods of attack. Eavesdropping. That again, you can hide messages with encryption, message tampering, integrity systems, prevent that. Checksums, message authentication codes, digital signatures, masquerading. Digital signatures, again, help protect against somebody sending a message claiming to be somebody else. And replay is an important issue. Replay is where you record a message that was sent, even if it's encrypted, you might send it again to see if the receiver will accept it. Okay, the Bell-LaPoota model. And I hate to say that it's kind of a problem with the people who did the questions early for the homework. Bell-LaPoota model is the most missed part of that. So let's take a look at this now. Okay, generally, every user and every document has a security level, which involves two parts. One is a level, clearance level, and it is top secret is the highest, then comes secret, then comes confidential, and then not involved or unclassified, or what do you want to call it. And along with that, there's a category. You can be eligible to look at information in certain categories, because just because you are in the State Department and you have access to secret information about countries, you may not have secret information about how to build nuclear weapons. You might not be necessary for you to have that. Remember, only tell people what they need to know to get their job done. In the Bell-LaPoota model, in order to be able to read something, you have to dominate. This is dominates relationship. And the dominate relationship is A and B dominate if the level is greater than or equal to the level of the other object, and the objects or the other entities categories are a subset of that. In other words, there's nothing in category B that's not in category A. So we look at the examples here. Again, let's copy the slide from earlier examples. You'll note that we have top secret dominates, top secret nuclear Asia dominates this because top secret is greater than secret and nuke is a subset of this. Again, this one, secret dominates is secret's bigger combination, and this is a subset. It might not be a proper subset, but it's a subset of that. Now, here, top secret nuke does not dominate confidential Europe because although top secret is a higher level than confidential, Europe is not in the subset of nuclear. Those mathematicians, The relationship is not symmetrical because confidential Europe does not dominate top secret because this is going up and you can't, no, it's not up. Okay, again, so the groups one. So again, in the Bell-LaPoota model, you can read down, or you can read at your same level, or you can read down. You read level objects of lower classification, but you cannot read objects of higher classification. So basically, you can read an object if the subject, the human, dominates the object. Here's an example. Jalen's secret has the categories Comp 620 and graduate. Then Jalen can read a document that's confidential graduate because confidential is a lower classification than secret, and grad is a subset of Comp 620 grad. But Jalen cannot read confidential TA because even though secret is greater than confidential, TA is not in the subset, a subset of 620 grad. So can't read that one. Writing. In the Bell-LaPoota model, you can write up or you can write at your same level. You cannot write down. The purpose of the Bell-LaPoota model is confidentiality. Doesn't want information released. You cannot get information from one group to another. That's not to be allowed. So if you're you can't write information to a lower security level, and you can't write to another group if you're not a member of that group. So in this way, the domination is backwards from writing, or excuse me, from reading. And for writing, the object that you want to write has to dominate the subject. So here's an example. Zachary's secret, same as before, Comp 620 grad. You can write a top secret document grad because top secret, because the object document top secret dominates this, because top secret and grad. Okay. But cannot write secret Comp 6 TA because TA cannot write to an area where she's not allowed. Okay. So get your clickers out. We have a bunch of questions just to make sure you're on top of this. Okay. There's my mouse. There's my mouse is behaving. Okay. Let's get online people. There we go. Okay. I think I have 4 of these, so get ready. All right, the online people are moving forward. Oh, people are checking their notes. Okay. Everybody got a card? Did you ever get a card? Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Hang on here. Hey, not gonna make it seem like that. Okay. Try to keep that, and for the rest of the semester. Paid $1 for it, so we don't want to lose them. All right, and you got to put it right side up, so the letter that in other words, if you think the answer is A, put the A on the top. If you think the answer is B, look at the card, it's got B on the top, and just hold it up with the proper letter up. Okay, folks online are way ahead of you because I haven't pressed this button, and okay. I'll tell you, image recognition is just amazing. All right, almost everybody likes A. Good choice. A is the proper choice. Why? Because, oops, where did that go? Yes, because top secret dominates the document secret. Top secret is bigger than secret, and Comp 420 same month. Okay, let's try this one. Oh, don't try it. Sorry. Mousing issues. There we go. End the poll. We're not going to bother showing the results. Stop sharing. The next one. Here it is. Go. All right. Look at that one. Very similar. Okay. All right. Are you ready? Let's get their cards up there. All right, got it. Ah, you missed it. You're gonna have to pull it together there. All right. The most common answer is D. Yes. D. People like A, but the answer is D. Have to note carefully here. Now, this is a problem people have gotten confused on. Yes, well, sure, top secret is greater than secret, but 620 is not in the subset here, so we can't read that document over, right? So we can't write down, so you can only do nothing. The answer is D, none. Everybody understand why it's D? Okay, good. If you understand that, then you should have no, come on. Why is this one? There we go. Let's move on to the next question. And oh. All right, we should go. Image recognition. All right, press the right button. Gotcha. All right. And okay, the online people have got online people have gone for C. The in-class people are kind of iffy. C is most popular. C is in fact the answer. So yes, the same level, same category. They can both read and write it. Okay, good with that? Everybody understand why it's C? That is the answer. One more just to torture you because I want you to be ready for the, oh, there's the answer. I want you to be ready for, oh, come on, polling. Okay, there we are. The online people, well, of course, the online people are faster because I haven't pressed the buttons to do here in class. Okay. Okay, let's get this. Gotta hold it up. Right, yes, holding it at a diagonal does not count. Okay, I think we got it. And yes, D was a popular answer. Yes, okay. Caitlin is secret, and wants to access a document at the same level. This other one has comp 620. Caitlin does not have 620, so she can't access that. She can neither read nor write that. So the answer is D, none. All right, moving on then. Now, in the Microsoft world, they have series of permissions, and they can give permissions to group. Users can have permissions, and groups can have permissions, and users can belong to multiple groups. And so when you have multiple groups, you have to combine the user permission and the group's permission. The permission given to a user is not higher level necessarily than the permission given to the groups. And here is the order of how Microsoft interprets the groups, and it looks at all of them, and you get the user gets the permission that is the highest ranking. Now the lower four are pretty easy. Read and execute is a little higher than read, and then write is more than read and execute. And full control means you can do everything, but deny is the highest ranking. If one of the groups or the user is denied access by, then no matter what group they belong to, what other access they may have, they don't get to access it. If they are denied, then they don't get it. That's the way it is. Okay, so I have just one question on, oh, geez, oh, Pete. There we go, one question on this. Let's try polling. All right. All right, let's move right along because we're running out of time. Get your Gotta see it. Okay, we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, there we are. And B is very popular, right? Yes. Okay, yes, because right is bigger than rear execute, so they got right. Yeah, that's all the questions that's enough. Oops. There it is. Everybody can see a couple people mistaken. Okay, stop sharing and go away. All right. Then, in addition to the Bella-Puta model, which is confidentiality, the Bibba model is for integrity, and it's the reverse of the Bella-Puta model. And again, the purpose of this is to ensure that things don't get accidentally changed as opposed to getting released. They don't care if people see the information, they want people to change the information. And so it's just the reverse. You know, as Bella-Puta, you can write up and read down. In the integrity model, you can read up, but you can't write down. I liked this example. This was, to me, this was easy to remember. The monk can write a prayer book read by commoners, but and not be read by a high priest. And for viewing, a monk can read a book by the high priest, but cannot read a pamphlet written by a commoner. That made it easy for me to remember. Was there a question online about this? Okay, good. Moving on. Remember, there's symmetric encryption and asymmetric encryption. Symmetric encryption uses the same key to encrypt and decrypt. Asymmetric uses different keys. Typically, the keys are related mathematically, but they are different. Substitution permutation is often used for the symmetric key. AES, DES uses something like this. It's just in this case, they use the permutation is just reorder the bits. The substitutions, they have substitution boxes that are just for any given input pattern, they output a different pattern. And then the exclusive OR, they take the key, the exclusive OR with the results. Usually a function of the key, each stage has some function to act on the key. So every stage uses a different part of the key. RSA encryption takes the message, which is here, M, of course, it's just a bunch of bits, but you can look at the bunch of bits as a number, and they raise it to the power E, mod N, or remainder of the division by N, and then that gives you the ciphertext. And you, very similar to decrypted, but they use the letter D instead of E. And again, N is the product of two large primes, which you call P and Q, because they are very large, like 1,000 bits each, and you multiply them together, they get a 2,000 bit prime, 2,000 bit number, which only factors the very large, but it's mathematically difficult to defactor that to find out how it is. Now, some people might think that you can get a quantum computer to do that, and maybe you can once they have quantum computers. I'm not worried about that because I don't believe quantum computers exist, but you may believe something else. I don't know what the future is, but then again, neither do you. Okay. Encryption performance. The RSA algorithm, which again is this one, takes a good deal of computing. It's not particularly computationally efficient, whereas AES and DES, particularly AES, is much faster to calculate. Major chip manufacturers have put the AES algorithm into their chip, so they have hardware support for it, so you can do a stage of it very quickly. And then there's hybrid encryption, which uses both. That is, they usually use asymmetric encryption to send a symmetric key to the other side. Here's, okay, one last, okay, 10 more slides. One last question. Oh, we'll skip this because we're running out of time. Okay, but you can look at it. How do you make the key? Well, AES, any random number will generally work as the key. Generally just use a random number generator to make a key. RSA, you've got that algorithm that we looked at earlier to make the keys. So yes, you can use any bunch of bits you want for an AES key, but you've got to go through the algorithm to make keys for RSA. Okay, message authentication codes, again, or MAC, that's just a hash, just some algorithm that takes the text, squishes it up into some result, some number, 160 bits, 512 bits, or whatever hash system you want to use. And then if you change any bit in the input text, the hash will come out differently. That way, if you put the hash at the end, typically you hash the document, put the hash in there and encrypt it, send it to somebody. Somebody decrypts it and also calculates the hash, sees that the two results are the same. They are pretty well assured that the message hasn't been changed and comes from whoever has the encryption key. I think I just said this. And again, the hash relies on a message authentication code. And that does not do anything for keeping people from reading the message. It does not encrypt the message. It just ensures that it came from who they said, which is very well. Sometimes you might want to encrypt, or excuse me, you might want to sign a program that comes from someplace so that the user who's going to execute that doesn't really care about if anybody saw that. If the company wants everybody to see their program, they just want you to know that it does come from whoever said that they created it. Nobody put a virus in it somewhere along the way. Digital signatures, again, use a Mac. I think I just mentioned this, but typically they take the plain text, hash it with whatever your favorite hash algorithm is, and then encrypt that with the public key of the receiver. Or the public key and private key of the sender, and then send it over there. The other side will separate, hash it themselves, decrypt what they got with the public key of the and then of the sender, and then they can check and see if it's the same. Digital certificates are usually sent along with this message. The digital certificate contains the key, so you don't have to go hunting for it. It's in the key. Now, how do you know the key is correct? How do you know somebody didn't switch keys on you? Because here's the data. It's got a checksum, and that's encrypted. Alice is sending a message to Bob because Alice is always sending messages to Bob. And there's a checksum of the data that's encrypted with Alice's private key, which Alice knows and nobody else knows. But here's Alice's public key. So you can decrypt this because it's asymmetric encryption. You decrypt the checksum and check and see if it's correct. How do you know this is Alice's? Because we have a checksum of that public key, and that checksum is encrypted with a certificate authority's public key, private key, and everybody should have the certificate authority's public key and decrypt it. Hybrid encryption, yeah, talked about that. Okay. First exam again is Wednesday. That's 2 days from now. It will be available online. Online starting at 6 a.m. until midnight. It will not take you 18 hours. You have one chance at it though. So when you're ready, when you have a couple hours ready to go, open it up and start working on it. If Blackboard is cruel to you and blows you off, and I know it's done that. Hang on, don't worry, I got it. I'm gonna answer his question in just a minute. I didn't forget you. It just takes.
I figured it out. I just had to change the argument.
Okay. Okay, but let me show that in just a minute. Okay, so that's it. Any questions about the exam? Okay, hang on, folks. By popular demand, I'm going to show you how to encrypt it'd be really easy if I had an encryption key on the system, and I don't know if I did. I go out here, you go to settings, over to privacy and security, scroll down to security, scroll down further to certificates, manage certificates, and there we have certificates. Boy, there's look at that one. Hey,
We
Yes.
can't see your screen.
oh, you can't see my screen. That's right. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Well, I can see it. I don't know what's the matter with you guys. Okay, let's just look at the screen. Okay. All right. Hopefully you can see the screen now. I know this is it's a test here. Okay. There's my encryption. There's my certificate. I have a certificate for my other account. I'll close that. So I know I have a certificate out there. So now if I go to Microsoft Word. And pick up something like an old syllabus and just Microsoft sending annoying messages to me. Just go away, Microsoft. And then I'm gonna, so I go up here and I say digital signature. And signature. Boy, it's every now it's blinking signature. No, I want a digital signature. This is not what I want. It's interesting when I type in digital, you can see the answer I want flashes there. Yeah, boy. It always works at home when nobody's watching. I'm not exactly sure where that option is. Nope, I don't know where that is. Yeah, I never found out what button. Does anybody know what button allows you to do this? I never figured out the button, but I could always just type it in at home, type it in, and search for, there it is. There's a box pops up and you can just secure it. Maybe you're more lucky. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know why that doesn't work. And I would put it under review. But I don't see anything there for that. Well, so much for showing you how to do it. I apologize. Again, it works so nicely at home. All right, are there any questions about the exam? Remember, also the homework is out there. Homework, the questions are due tomorrow at 6 o'clock. There's been some requests to extend that time. I'm going to be mean and cruel. Maybe I'll open up to 8. I want it done in time so you can look at the results and see how you did. Because right now you don't know how you scored. I don't think you know how you.
We know the score, but we don't know what we got wrong.
Okay, that's the answer. I want you to be able to see the answers, and it says show the answers after everybody's answered, because I don't want to show you the answers, because who knows what you would do with the answers if you had them and somebody else wanted to know. But it could happen. Yeah, online people have expressed interest in having it later. I'll move it to 8. Okay, compromise. Is that okay? 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Instead of 6 p.m., move it to 8 p.m. Well, some people work. They say they don't have time to answer the questions. Midnight? Well, if we do it midnight, then people won't get to see the answers until midnight. I mean, you had next day. The next day is the day you take the exam. Is that a problem? To put it at midnight? Okay, I'll put it at midnight then. All right. Midnight it is. Everybody got that online? The first part of the homework, which is the questions, the online questions, are now due midnight on Tuesday. It's midnight tomorrow. So we extended it 6 extra hours. By popular demand. Okay. Well, that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will stop